It's finally November. I have some plans to celebrate Thanksgiving very soon. What are some of your favorite Thanksgiving foods? Do you eat a lot of it? Food is pretty great. And God designed us to eat food. We need to feed ourselves regularly or we get hungry. No one likes being hungry. Have you ever been so hungry that you got hangry? That's when you get so hungry that it makes you angry and it puts you in a bad mood. Well, in today's story, someone gets so hangry that they gave something very valuable for some stew and bread. Doesn't that sound kind of silly? But it's true. You'll find today's story in Genesis chapters 25 and 26. Join me in your Bible as we begin our story. We remember back on Abraham and how God had promised to give him a son. God kept his promise to Abraham and gave him his son, Isaac. Isaac grew up and married a wife, Rebecca. After many years, Isaac and Rebecca still had no children. Isaac prayed and asked God to give him a baby. God answered Isaac's prayer. Rebecca became pregnant with twins, 2 babies, but the babies fought inside of her. Rebecca was worried. Why is this happening? She asked God. God told Rebecca part of his plan. God said, "Your sons will grow up and their families will be 2 separate nations. One nation will be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." When Rebekah's babies were born, the older was called Esau. He was red-looking and hairy. The younger was named Jacob, who was born holding on to Esau's heel. When the boys grew up, they were very different. Esau was a hunter, and Jacob stayed at home. One day, Jacob was cooking stew. Esau came home from the field and said, "Let me have some stew." "Okay," Jacob said, "but first, you have something only the firstborn son is supposed to get." Esau did not care about his birthright at that moment because he was so hungry, so he gave it to Jacob from some bread and stew. Oh, Esau, what a foolish decision. Sometime later, Isaac went to a place called Gerar because there was not enough food in the land. God appeared to him and said, "Live in the land I will tell you about. I will be with you and bless you. I will keep the promise I made to your father Abraham." God said he would give Isaac a big family, as many descendants as the stars in the sky, and land for his family. God said, "I will do this because Abraham listened to me and kept my commands." So Isaac made his home in Gerar. God's promise for Abraham was for Isaac too. When Esau gave his birthright, that meant Jacob would get the blessing God promised. One day, God would send Jesus to earth through Jacob's family. He would bring blessing and salvation to the world. Galatians 3:29 explains how God's blessing to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has been given to us as well because that blessing is Jesus. Let's say our verse together. Galatians 3:29. "And if ye be Christ, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise." Galatians 3:29. Give thanks this week for the blessing you inherited when you joined God's family. And if you haven't become one of God's children yet and haven't claimed the inheritance that is the right of every Christian, ask your parents about it, or your pastor or trusted church member. I'm sure someone would love to talk with you about it. See you next time.